on Star Trek Lexington.
Chief Medical Officer's Log. Stardate 5540.6. The Lexington is en route to Kambari 2, an Aurelian colony near the Klingon neutral zone. The planet is being ravaged by Satorian pox, a horrible disease that causes permanent scarring across the body in the best case, and death in the worst case. We are at high warp and expected in the system within a day. Critically, the vaccines were manufactured on Andoria and must remain cold until delivery. Cargo Bay 1 has been turned into a climate-controlled freezer.
A routine delivery mission turns into a race against time when the Lexington's engines are disabled. The crew must get them repaired before it's too late. But how did this happen, and perhaps more importantly, who caused it? Find out on Star Trek Lexington. Hey everybody, welcome to Kent with Bent number, 147 I think? Yeah, 147, look at that. Kent Hovind is the second worst. We got a few things. One, I did have a small mistake with the production right at the beginning, so we'll take a drink for that. So, also, I'm the Ziggernaut, the apostrophe TCH, open parenthesis, B2022, close parenthesis, gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. We'll take some drinks for that.
Nice.
Why does it say 11? Oh, because I've already put in the 6. Well, now we're going to go down to 7, because that's another production mistake, so Dapper's professional. And then also, Russian Evolutionized Keller for $4.99 says, Chihuahua, the exact term outer space should be a drink trigger. I mean, I'm not currently looking for extra drink triggers, but I can see why those would be pretty decent ones. Okay, so, Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing okay. You know, got some scripting done. Got another video hopefully coming out by the end of this week. And then, you know, oh, hey, I'm close to actually finally beating Satisfactory for the first time ever.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a game I've been playing for like 3 years. I might actually beat it. To be fair, for almost all of that time, it's been literally impossible to beat because there just wasn't a win scenario. So I feel like that like gives me a little bit of cover for having had the game so long without beating it, right? Let's see. Glenn Hogan, full relation for 200 Argentinian pesos, says Anderson will quote any verse except "By their fruits shall ye know them." Yeah, we're going to talk about that in just because I do want to touch on that. Yeah, so things here are going pretty well. We are here for Kent with Bent. Now, for those of you who might not be familiar with the format of the show, we take a look at a Kent Hovind video. We basically point out pretty much everything that we can figure out that's wrong. We're going to make a few mistakes because this is a live show and I don't know what Kent is about to say. So, you know, it's going to be one of those. Anything we say here today is something that you should probably take with a grain of salt because I don't know what Kent's about to say. And while I am a little bit of a Renaissance dinosaur, I don't literally know everything. We got a few things. Fearmonger, Master of Science, who's been a member for 23 months and is at the Tetchpod level, says AIG equals penis. Oh, there's a whole thing. Penis posse. Penis posse. Okay, that should do it. I'm gonna say that means a bag of dicks, so I'm gonna take a drink because I don't. I'm gonna guess Swedish. Erachamian for $20 says, a lot. Okay. I don't actually know the word lop. Do you know that one, Bent?
No, I don't.
You don't? How don't you know the word lop?
There's a lot of Klingon words I don't know.
Oh, it's vote. Okay. I hope that wasn't just word soup. Okay. So if you refuse to vote, then someone and success. Oh, wait, yeah, not by. Okay. Okay, if you refuse to vote, then victory and success. Let's. Then you definitely can't achieve success. Okay, yeah, no, that works. It's just I don't know. I didn't know the word lop, and I also mixed up vi and yite. So please forgive me on that one. But yeah, no, that's perfectly good Klingon. I just didn't know all of the words because I don't know all the words in the Klingon language. Believe it or not.
That's weird.
I know, right? Oh well, they keep adding new ones for one thing. You know, like at least like a few new words come out like every month.
Really?
Yeah.
That many?
Yeah. There's a number of people who have just like Mark Okran's email, and they can just email him, and he gets back to them about as often as not, which is a new word. Liz D for $5 says, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Kent's about to say something wrong, and AIG is a bag of Kent Hovins. We'll take a drink for that. Thank you very much. So, format of the show goes like I said, and also we have a bit of a drinking game, as you've already seen. So we're going to go over the drinking rules real quick, but before we do, I want to say, first of all, this drinking game is just for fun, like all drinking games, in fact. You should not feel obligated to play along, and if you do want to play along, you should not feel obligated to do so with alcohol or any other intoxicating substance. All intoxicating substances have their risks. Yep, Bent is just doing regular old Baja Blast. It's not even hard Baja Blast. I'm drinking hard Baja Blast today. But, yeah, so one of the things is, feel free to play along with soda, water, tea, coffee, juice, vape pen. You can just clap. You can, fist bump your bro. You can, whatever you want, right? You also can just not play along at all. It's absolutely fine. But if you do choose to play along and you want to play along with something intoxicating, please be careful, know your limits, pace yourself, and don't, after playing, go out and operate heavy machinery, drive a car, fly an airplane, or text your ex. These are all bad ideas. We here at the Dapper Dinosaur channel, including myself personally and Hovind, take neither liability nor responsibility for bad choices that you make, because we're warning you right now. That being said, we have one new, membership, membership chat. Alex Markle, who's been a member for 20 months, is at the annual level, says, AIG, oh my goodness. Let's see if Dapper can guess this obscure okay. AIG wa I have no idea. But I'm going to take a drink for it. Tagalog? I don't know. I guess that's not obscure. I don't know. Is Tagalog obscure? If I add Bent, where do they speak Tagalog?
Earth.
Okay, what country?
I don't know.
Okay, then I guess it's obscure. That's my rule. If you don't know what country it's spoken in, it's probably obscure.
Ethiopia.
No. If it had been Tigrinya, then that would definitely be Ethiopia.
I should have gone with the field.
Let's see. That's Tunicate Demonic Selection for $5 says, next you'll tell me you don't know all the words in the English language. I don't, actually. There are many words in the English language I do not know. And then Roshna Evolutionized Calorie for $4.99 says, Baja Blast is the best drink to play with. Humping your bro next best. I said fist bumping, but look, if you and your bro want to hump, I'm not going to tell you not to. As long as you're both okay with it, and it's mutual, and you're not breaking any local laws, feel free to do that for a drink. That's you and your bro's business, not mine. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm just going to be drinking this Baja Blast. No humping. Today, or any foreseeable time in the future for events, but whatever. So let's go over the drink triggers. First, as you guys have seen, we will take drinks for, it's Ainu. Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I don't actually know any Ainu. I just know that it exists. Yeah, I don't know a single word of Ainu. I guess except probably, is Ainu an Ainu word? I don't even know if it is. For all I know, they have a completely different word for themselves. Like the Finnish. Yeah. Oh well. Anyway. Okay, so as you guys have already seen, if anyone super chats or membership, milestone chats, anything to the effect that answers in Genesis or AIG or a bag of dicks, we'll take a drink for that. We'll also take a drink for gifted memberships, as we already drank for. We'll also take a drink anytime anyone super chats or membership milestone chats. anything with any of the kaiju emojis. We have Godzilla, we have King Ghidorah, and we have Mothra. Put those in one of your super chats or your membership milestone chat, and hey, that's a drink trigger. I know where my towel is, who's been a member for 2 months and is at the Tetrapod level, says AIG is a bag of dudes with the same name as my ex. I'm going to go ahead and guess that your ex was named Richard. I'll take a drink for that. Okay. Well, let's take a drink. If Kent Hovind says something that's so stupid we just kind of have to cool our brains off. It's brain cooling. We'll also take a drink if Kent Hovind actually gets something factually accurate, but it's not just him memorizing something and not just him quoting something and spitting it out back at us. If it's actually in his brain and he says it, then it counts. If he's just reading it out of a citation, that doesn't count. It actually has to be in his brain. We will also laugh at, if he tells a joke that doesn't land, we will take a drink for that. We will also take a drink for any time that he tells a story that didn't happen, or that, we're pretty sure didn't happen. It's obviously a judgment call. But, if he tells a story about how, he converted a museum docent to Christianity away from being a heathen, sex-crazed atheist because his daughter gave him a talk about the circular reasoning and the dating of fossils, yeah, we're going to take a drink for that, because I'm pretty sure that story is a thing that didn't happen. Now, some of it might have. He probably did go to a museum. But other than that, yeah, most of that story's fake. So we're going to take a drink for it. We will also take a drink anytime Kent Hovind mentions that political party or members thereof that were very popular in Germany in the 1930s going into the 40s. Or at least that took over during that time. They were varyingly popular. So there is that. Let's see, we will also take a drink anytime Kent Hovind mixes up what we can know about any larger taxon to which Lucy, the Australopithecus, belonged, with what we can know just from her skeleton if taken in isolation. So, for instance, if Kent says, well, we don't know if Lucy could walk upright because we don't have her feet, well, guess what, Kent? We have the feet of other Australopithecus. So we don't need her feet in particular to know what her feet look like. That's called ad hominid, and it can only happen once per stream. If we check one of Kent Hovind's sources and it not only fails to support him, but it actively contradicts him, then we will in fact also take a drink for that. We'll also take a drink if either Bent or I can successfully predict what Kent is going to be talking about and arguing for next, or what his next bit of evidence is. Successful prediction. As you've already seen, we will also take a drink if I screw up the production of the show. Now, it has to actually be my screw up. If it's just technology handing me a raw deal, like if the stream crashes, or YouTube goes down, or a tornado blows up Comcast or something, I don't know. That's not me. We're not going to take a drink for that. We're just going to try to get back. And what have I forgotten, Bent?
Audible kaiju monster.
Okay, yes. Godzilla or Mothra may come by audibly. If they do, we will take a drink for that. Is that the only thing I missed?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, in that case, let's start. This is CSE 103, Lesson 9. Now, we did last time leave off at the end of Lesson 4. But then 5, 6, 7, and 8 were all just more of Kent argument from consequences against evolution and slippery slope fallacy against evolution. I was not going to subject myself to months of Kent Hovind's argument from consequences. I can't do it. I physically can't. So instead, we're skipping lessons 5, 6, 7, and 8 to go to the next one where he makes any kind of science claims. And also, those previous ones were full of, crazy conspiracy theories, anti-Semitism, anti-Freemasons, nonsense about the Illuminati, the One World Order, all of that stuff. And, this channel is not about conspiracies. The Jews aren't taking over the world. Neither are the Freemasons. The Illuminati isn't really a thing that exists anymore. There's no reptilians living underground at the South Pole or whatever who are going to take over the Earth. There's no German Third Reich moon base. Vaccines work. Yeah. Well, that's the channel's position on all that stuff. And it's not what this channel is about, so we're probably not going to get into that. But yeah, in case you were wondering. Oh, also, no, the United States did not figure out how to control the weather just so that they could fuck over Florida twice a year. Which is another conspiracy I've literally heard from actual currently elected federal level politicians. So, yeah. Did you know that Marjorie Taylor Greene, a current sitting representative in the House of Representatives, has said that the U.S. is targeting Florida with their weather control technology?
Wow.
Yeah, in an effort to displace Trump voters so that he'll lose the election.
Hmm.
Yep.
Well, fingers crossed.
Also, it's a bit late now, but if you are in the way of Hurricane Milton and you're watching this, first, maybe go to a shelter. Go be safe, because it is a very dangerous hurricane. It's probably going to be the most dangerous hurricane that has hit in your lifetime, unless you were way older than anyone who normally watches my show, meaning that you're like 112 or something. And even then, you were a baby the last time a hurricane this dangerous hit Florida. So this is the most dangerous storm you have ever experienced in your entire life. Please be safe out there. With that being said, let's get into some Kent Hovind. Ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
All right, but before that, Roshna Evolutionized Kettle for $4.99 says this channel is about conspiracies, young Earth creationists, not just not those types of conspiracies. Yes, that's fair. That's a better way to put it. Savage Cobra, the Eddie Current Vertebrate for $5 says Marjorie Taylor Greene is proof that sapiens is not required to be elected to federal office. Yeah, you are not wrong. Also, it looks like we might actually be on pace to make Bent wear a tutu next time.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's get him to wear a tutu, and also maybe even free pizza.
Even nicer.
Yeah.
Welcome to the last class of CSE 103. Next week we'll start up right into CSE 104 and hopefully be able to finish. I don't know. We'll work at it.
So this is one of the weird things. This is so much a thing to correct Hovind on. Is just a weird thing, right? He has this whole series broken up into CSE 101, 102, 103, 104, and then 201. And the thing is, he's doing that because he's claiming that certain colleges are going to accept these people taking this class for credit. But the thing is that normally, when you have a class like that, you don't just go through some material until you run out of time and then just pick back up in the next class. You have a rubric and you accomplish certain tasks at the certain times, and if you fall behind, you have to catch up so that you're finished with an entire list of topics by the last class. So that the next class in that series, if someone needs to take it, they start right at the beginning of where that class is supposed to start with a new topic that's related, but a part of a new topic, and then you go through. Instead, Kent is basically just going through his seminars long form, and he gets however far he gets. And after so many classes, he just calls it and puts a new number up top and says CSE 102 class 1 instead of CSE 101 class 10 or whatever. And it's just a weird way to do it. And one of the things that I think it demonstrates is the degree to which Kent Hovind has never actually been in academia. He's never actually been to a real college except for like a year and a half at like a community college. So Kent doesn't actually know how this works, right? And I just think that it's interesting that even in this, it's so obvious that Kent is just so far removed from anything to do with higher education. Despite calling himself a doctor, having a mug that says Dr. Dino on it, and then pretending that he doesn't care that people know his doctorate isn't real. Keller Italian, who's been a member for 27 months, says, in a hotel, having evacuated, second everything you said with a Godzilla. Well, first of all, let's take a drink. Second of all, Keller, I'm really happy that you have evacuated. Look, listen to evacuation orders if you at all can, and if you can't, please reach out to people who might be able to help you. Because one of the things is, not everyone has the means to easily evacuate when they should. And if that is you, please reach out. There are people out there who can help you. You might be able to get like a bus ticket out of there. Sure, you might have to leave your stuff, which sucks. But you know what you can't use if you're dead? Any of your stuff. So I would rather that you lose your stuff than that you lose your life, because you can get new stuff. You can't get a new life. So please, if you're under an evacuation order, please evacuate. Joshua Geese also just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. So let's take 5 drinks for that. Thank you very much. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Which I do believe puts us ahead of pace.
This section,
Nice.
we're going to start talking about what's on our videotape number 6 of our series, called The Hovind Theory. I called it that so nobody else has to take the blame for it in case it's wrong, okay?
In case. I like how he's hedging his bet as if it isn't already known to be wildly incorrect. In fact, when Hovind was giving this, most people had already abandoned the major aspects of the so-called Hovind theory.
I would have to give credit to many people who have been very helpful to me to get ideas on what happened to the world, why did it flood, explaining some of the things we find in the world about the flood. That's what we're going to talk about, the flood in the days of Noah. Why would the world flood? Walt Brown has a very excellent book that I would recommend anybody read. He disagrees with me on a couple things, but I'll get him straightened out one of these days. Great guy.
I think he's since passed away, and I don't think he ever came around to accepting the Hovind theory. If anyone can double check for me whether or not Walt Brown has passed away, because I feel like I'm pretty confident that he has, but again, I don't, I'm not checking everything, so.
PhD in physics, Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, lives in Phoenix, Arizona, retired now. Tremendous.
Hey, that's not too far away from where we are. If he's not, then maybe we could go say hi.
Maybe.
We could go grab a drink or at a burger joint. Say, so Walt, what the hell, man? That's how it would open.
To the Hovind theory.
Yeah, did Hovind ever convince you? Rochina, evolutionized counter for 499 says today Ken said he'd take a limited number of evacuees at his cult compound. I guess he's not directly in the path. And look here. Okay, there's a few things. One, it's not a safe place, but it's a safer place than being directly in the path and in a low elevation area in Florida. So if that's all you got, I'm not going to tell you not to go to Kent's cult compound and weather a storm for like 2 or 3 days and then go back. Check everywhere else first. But also, if that's what you need to do, then okay. And if he actually does take in some people who might otherwise have died in a storm, then good on Kent, right? And actually, that's a good segue to talk about why Kent is the second worst. We're going to talk about someone who is the worst. But first, we're also going to note that my unfinished journey for 666 says, Hail Nero, Hail Daps, and Bent, and down with the crazy conspiracy ideas. The government targeted Helene at North Carolina because lithium mines. That's Florida crap. It's BS. Yeah, no, it's all absolutely insane. I don't even know. But Eris also just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships, so we're going to take 5 drinks. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Thank you. So, why is Kent not the worst? Well, it turns out Steve Anderson has recently been outed by a number of his adult and near-adult children as just like the worst kind of abusive parent and husband. And currently, the last I heard, one of his almost adult children, one of his daughters, is currently hiding out across the country with her uncle, his brother, and is hoping to wait until she's 18 so that she never actually has any obligation legally to him to do what he says, go back to his home. And she has said publicly she is afraid for her life if she goes back. Another of his adult sons and another of his adult daughters have also given similar interviews, both echoing the same allegations. Even Matt Powell, who is himself known to be abusive, has come out against Steve Anderson. And I just wanted to raise awareness in case anyone is in any way connected to Faithful Word Baptist Church or the NIFB, whether you have maybe family there, acquaintances or friends, that kind of thing. That would be a great thing to mention to those people, is the degree to which Stephen Anderson's family have pointed out that he is not just abusive on its own, which is already bad enough, but that a number of people are currently worried that he might actually be fatally abusive to some of his kids. And by a number of people, I mean his kids, the people who could die. There are currently children of Steve Anderson saying to the world, he might kill one of us. Please help. I don't have much of a way to help except by spreading that awareness. And he is a former friend of Kent Hovind. The time that Kent Hovind said maybe we should just kill all the mean people and the homosexuals, and then we'll get rid of the gay gene and the mean gene. So just eugenics and genocide. Yeah, that was the guy he was on the phone with when he said that. Was Stephen Anderson. That was from jail. Steve Anderson then also distanced himself from Kent because Kent got divorced and remarried. That was what Steve Anderson found unacceptable. The fact that he's been whipping his kids with an electrical cord and beating his wife behind closed doors to the point that she screams in agony, those are okay, though, because it's not a divorce. Becca Justiano, who's been a member for 11 months and is at that tetrapod level, says, don't get Bilbo'd with a Godzilla, a Mothra, and a Ghidorah. So we'll take a drink for that. Thank you very much. Asta Lucifer is my headmate Ryu for $4.99 says, Steve Anderson sounds like a real... I can't say on YouTube, so I'll just say AIG. We'll take a drink for that, too. I actually once got a pamphlet inviting me to his church slipped under my door. It was weird. That was back when I lived in Phoenix, because his church is in Mesa, which is really close to Phoenix. It's so close to Phoenix that when people who live in Mesa travel outside of Arizona and people ask where they live, they usually just say Phoenix. And there's Mothra, so we'll take a drink for Mothra. And here comes Tea Time Tea with their 20th super chat. Thank you very much. It says, Anderson literally said after his daughter's interview came out that people who do not honor their parents should be given the unlife penalty. Yeah, I mean, it is in the Bible, to be fair. And also, yeah, it just shows even more that this is a guy who needs to have his kids taken out of his custody. If you live anywhere nearby Mesa, you should call Child Protective Service and report Steven Anderson. Based on that. I mean, go check out the interviews. I think Dead Domain did 2 of them. I believe their name is Jordan. And I believe I was also corrected that Jordan is not a trans woman, is in fact non-binary. And my apologies to Jordan. I was mistaken. I was definitely not trying to be mistaken there. So apologies to Jordan if they ever watch this, which I very much doubt that they will. But yeah, go check out the interviews with his adult kids. And if you find that credible, maybe if Mesa CPS just gets flooded with reports, maybe they'll actually get off their asses and do something. Because, yeah, I actually think that there's a fair chance that one of his gaggle of children might end up actually dying, because he's got like 11 or something. Nonsense like that. Because the NIFB is connected with the Quiverful movement. They're not like the exact same thing, but there's a lot of overlap. So that's one of the reasons why he has just so many children.
This book, Henry Morris, of course, has been a great influence on me. A guy named Don Patton. There are 2 Don Pattons. There's one in Texas and one in Oregon, I believe. Don Patton wrote a book years ago called The Biblical Flood and the Ice Epic. And that, as just a young Christian, for me, really answered a lot of questions like, oh, wow, that makes sense. You know, something that would help answer the questions about what caused the flood. All right.
I think that's an actual introduction into how Kent got to where he is. Because Kent, according to himself, converted to a very, very conservative version of Christianity very early on in his life after having previously not really been religious. And I don't really dispute any parts of that, right? That all seems reasonably plausible to me. But then he did what I find a lot of people who do that do, which is they say, okay, well, what I'm hearing from science doesn't really accord with what I'm hearing from my interpretation of the Bible according to my interpretive tradition, which I've converted into. So is there anything out there that can at all try to like ease that cognitive dissonance? And he just grabs onto the first thing that he finds that does that, and he doesn't bother to fact check it. He doesn't check its sources. He doesn't go and do his own independent research on what the actual, results are from like scientific papers and studies and what the data say. He just goes for it. Titalac Rosie, who's been a member for 18 months and is at the Tetrapod level, says backwards, AIG is a bag of dicks. So we will take a backwards drink, which means I'm going to throw up into my glass. Nope, I'm just going to take a regular drink. Thank you very much. And so, yeah, I just think it's an interesting thing, because I see that all over the place, right? Even, especially with a lot of the PhDs, right? A lot of the PhDs who are creationist weren't actually Christians while they were first getting their PhD, but then they converted to Christianity. Converted to a particularly conservative version of Christianity, like theologically conservative, with very theologically conservative ideas about biblical inerrancy and the authority of the scriptures. And when I say conservative, I mean like conservative for their particular branch of Christianity. Inerrancy is actually not a long-standing Christian doctrine when it comes to the Bible, but I mean, whatever, right? And then they try to adapt whatever they're learning about science to that, and the priority goes to what they think the Bible says, and not to what the evidence says. Because they have a more important commitment to the Bible, because that is part, or to their interpretation framework for the Bible, because that's part of their core identity now. And it's very hard to get people to question things that are part of their core identity, because that feels personal, even if it's not intended to be. Because if you're saying, my core identity is invalid, that doesn't feel good. No one wants to hear that. And so, yeah, you move away from that if you can.
Let's set the ground rules here. Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Well, if he created it, then he...
Okay, so first, it doesn't say that. It says, when God began to create the heavens and the earth, and it's plural for heavens, the earth was welter and waste, formless and void, whatever you want to translate there. So the Bible doesn't actually depict God creating the earth or the heavens, but you can argue that he did that before Genesis 1:1 if you want to. I'm not going to complain. I'm going to say that's not actually what it says. Oh, and it looks like the video player may have broken.
Oops.
So while I get that back, we'll just mention why that's reasonably important. So one of the things with that is that there's a lot of Christian doctrines, right, that just aren't actually in the Bible, and that you have to read into the Bible if you want to put them there. That a lot of people like Kent just pretend are just kind of part of the whole thing, and they don't recognize the degree to which this is actually their own interpretive framework that they are imposing on the text. But they are. And I feel like that is something that we don't recognize as much as we should. That these are not things that they're actually getting from the Bible. These are ideas that they are taking a interpretive framework and a traditional theology and imposing onto the Bible, and then twisting the Bible to correspond to that. And the thing is, everyone does that who is going to go in and try to interpret the Bible as anything close to authoritative, right? You have to, because the Bible doesn't always agree with itself. So any systematic theology you want to apply is going to have to at least involve some amount of interaction with the text, such that you accept parts of it and reject other parts of it, or prioritize some parts and deprioritize other parts. The thing that bugs me is that certain groups of Christians, especially people who accept sola scriptura, which is Protestants broadly, are really bad at acknowledging the fact that that's what they're doing. And instead, they just play games and pretend that that's not what they're doing, when in fact it is. And it's especially egregious when you have people like Kent, who don't actually know the original languages at all, even less than I do, which is not a lot. And then they'll just go on about what the Bible really says and get it very obviously wrong. Kent does it all the time. My Unfinished Sock for $2 says, use a quiver full of socks to like and share. Yes, please do. Use all of your socks to like and share. All right, so we are right back about where.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Well, if he created it, then he owns it. He's the master. He makes the rules, etc.
That does not actually follow. That is not how that works. Just because I make something, it doesn't make it mine. For one thing, like you ever make something on commission? Have you ever done that?
Yes.
Once you hand it over to the other person, is it yours? Do you get to set the rules for it?
Not really, no.
Yeah, no. Also, if you just give something up to public use, that doesn't make it yours. So, for instance, many of Kent Hovind's early videos say that he does not copyright his videos. That means that, at least for those videos where he says that, he made those videos, but he doesn't get to set the rules for how they're used. Anyone can use them in any way they want. Now, he did later revoke that, but he can't retroactively revoke it on videos he already said he was basically giving up copyright for. So on his later videos, you do actually have to follow fair use guidelines, but for his earliest videos, you don't have to at all. If you want to take Kent Hovind's original Seminar 1 video, in which he explicitly says that he does not plan to enforce a copyright in that video, you could broadcast it on national TV, and there's not a damn thing Kent could do about it. Right? So that's because Kent voluntarily gave up any of that ownership. Further, people make kids all the time, other people. You don't get permanent control over those human beings just because you made them. Those are their own independent human beings. And you are obligated to care for them because you made them. You put them in a situation in which they're helpless. But you don't get to simply control their lives. People try, and it usually ends up ruining their relationship with their kids. But similarly, you could just make the argument that maybe God is in fact more akin to a parent than to a slave master. Now, the Bible actually explicitly says that God is more akin to a slave master many times in many places. But I'm just saying that you could have a different theology about that. It does not actually follow that just because someone made something that they now have full control over it forever. My Unfinished Journey for $2 says Steve A has 2 quivers hanging below his AIG. Just take a drink. Roshina Evolutionized Keller for $4.99 says Kent says God owns everything while simultaneously saying humans have private property rights. Yeah, there is that too, right? What sense does it make to have property rights if God actually has all the property rights and everything? And also he uses the idea that his money is God's money to try to evade taxes. It didn't work very well. So, Savage Cobra, the Ediacar Invertebrate for $5 says, you mean Kent's videos haven't been checked by the copyright? Why should anyone take them seriously? No, I don't believe he has submitted them to the copyrights. I don't think that's a thing he's done yet. I should try to get Armando Calvo on for a talk, just to chat and see, try to understand how his brain works, because I really want to know what the copyright is. What did you physically do with your text that counts as having it checked by the copyright? I want to know. And I also want to ask him, do you understand why people think that you're a plagiarist? And also, what do you think plagiarism is? Because...
those complex questions.
Oh, man. Yeah, those super hard questions. No one can answer. They're mysteries of the universe. What is plagiarism?
The Bible teaches us that there was not only a canopy of water above. Now, there are some creationists who don't like the canopy theory. Walt Brown doesn't believe in the canopy. He says there was not a canopy above the earth because it would cause problems with heat and things like that.
Which it absolutely would. It's also physically impossible for there to just be a standing canopy of water, because, water is pretty heavy, and it falls.
And gravity's a thing.
Yeah, gravity's a thing. So, there's numerous reasons why we know that there could never have been a water canopy the way Kent thinks of it. Because Kent thinks that there was actually a layer of either ice or liquid water above the Earth in a spherical shell around the Earth. That's physically impossible. Rael Gatubello for $2 says a whole bunch of stuff that has a whole bunch of letters that I'm not sure what they're supposed to be doing. But Zanaphilis Eshte Nyethesmederasa? I'm going to take a drink for it because I'm pretty sure that's an AIG is a bag of dicks. At this point, I feel like people are actually just putting in as many crazy languages as they can to see how I try to struggle through and pronounce any of it.
I think that's been going on for years.
I know. Okay, that's a fair point. But by the way, Rail Gattabella, let me know, what language was I trying to struggle through right there? Brendan, I don't list... Hold on, I'll get this. Brendan, I don't sell literal snake oil herring. Who's been a member for 15 months says, gee, I'd have to research what plagiarism is. Yeah, it's very obscure. Not many people know about it. Oh, it's Albanian. Okay. Yeah, I would have never guessed that. Yeah, I don't know a damn thing about Albanian. I'm not even sure if I know what language family it's in. Asto Lucifer is my headmate Ryu for $4.99 says, what is plagiarism? Might really be a mystery of the universe as of 2024, considering ChatGPT and the like. Ooh, yeah, good point. Good point. That is depressingly accurate. Yeah. Look, there are certain things for which ChatGPT is an actually okay thing for. If you want to I don't know, come up with some kind of idea for a story, you can springboard story ideas off of it and get a vague outline that you're going to have to heavily modify, because what it gives you is only going to be at best a good jumping off point. But asking it to do any kind of technical work, to fact check anything, asking it for factual information on anything, I mean, you might as well just come up with whatever you just made up, because that's what it's doing. It's just making stuff up. I'm still amazed that there have been stories about lawyers submitting briefs written by ChatGPT containing fake case citation, citing cases that just don't exist. And then the judge, of course, looks those cases up to check on the citation to see what the argument is. They don't exist. And then the lawyers get in trouble. And it's like, dude, how did you not see this coming? What are you doing? Oh, it's its own Indo-European branch, huh? Like Greek or Albanian. Interesting. Okay. Well, I guess that explains why I don't know what language family it's in. Because it's its own little weird side branch of Indo-European. Neat. Now I might actually have to look into what the grammar and whatnot are like for Albanian, because I might find it.
Excuses they often give. What about the greenhouse effect? It'll trap the heat. It'll runaway heat problem.
Yeah, because creationism needs yet another heat problem, am I right? Why not just add so many heat problems? Oh my goodness. My goodness. And for those of you who don't know, basically every model of young Earth creationism involves having at least hundreds of millions, if not billions of years worth of processes squeezed into about a year or maybe a couple of years. And you can't do that without having some kind of miracle to get rid of all that energy, because otherwise it just turns to thermal energy and vaporizes the Earth. Let's see. Roshan Evolutionized Keller from 999 says, due to YouTube for iOS problem with typing super chats, I have a note full of super chats to paste into YouTube. I seriously hope this note never leaks. Thank you very much. Well, good luck with the note. Harvey Munshaw for $5 says, AIG is a bag of Steven Andersons. Oof, man, that is an insult to dicks, but I'll take a drink for it anyway. Yeah. That is an insult to dicks. Yeah. All right, here we go.
Well, there are all sorts of ways that can be fixed, okay? And that's God's problem, not mine. But I said, well, if you don't believe there was a canopy above the...
I'm sorry, but the physical impossibility of your idea might also be God's problem, but it's at the very least also your problem. There is no way in which that's just God's problem.
Yeah, it's not how you answer scientific questions. By just saying, oh, that's God's problem.
Let's see. Naramdaputs is... What is this? Is this some kind of Caucasian language? Mygnedstr on yer en ton omrkud? I'm just gonna take a drink. Oh, man. You guys are just giving me the hardest to pronounce languages, aren't you? It's... Oh my goodness. Like Georgian or something. Is it Georgian? It's Georgian. I'm going to win an award. That's not a language. That's my fingers are on the wrong home keys with the left hand shifted over by one key. Oh. All right, well, that explains why it doesn't actually look like it. Actually, it kind of does look like Georgian.
Water, above the earth, like the Bible, I think, teaches pretty clearly in several verses. Psalm 148 teaches there might be water still above the stars. Waters that be above the heavens.
So the universe is just surrounded by a sphere of water? Sure. You know what, Kent? Whatever. Maybe beyond the cosmic horizon there's a sphere of water. Who knows? I guess I can't say there isn't.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, no, Kent, this is completely impossible. So Kent's like, well, what if it's in the unobservable distance that you can't even see or detect in any way, and it can't interact with you? Okay, yeah, I guess maybe. I can't say it definitely isn't there. Sure, Kent. Roach Evolutionized Keller for $4.99 says, I keep wanting to blow on Ben's head because it looks like his hair's his hair on my screen. That's the spider webs. Look, if I turn Bent off for a second, it's spider webs. Alright, let's update the counter and then we'll keep going. Oh, hey, we just passed the halfway point to getting Bent to wear a tutu later on this month.
Nice.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
Could still be. Maybe it's earth, air, there used to be a layer of water, layer of stars, another layer of water. The Bible says the Lord sits on many waters. Who knows? Nobody knows what's out past space.
Yes, Ken, there's a reason for that.
Or past what we observe as a solar system, so there still could be water.
No, Ken, we know what's past the goddamn solar system. Kent does not know the difference between the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe. He just doesn't. He does not understand anything about the scale of space.
No, he doesn't have a clue.
That's why he will talk about the Big Bang while showing on screen something about the formation of the solar system, and then ask why not literally everything in the universe is rotating the same way if the solar system's formed out of a single cloud of gas. Kent also has numerous times said that the stars are receding away from us, not that distant galaxies are receding away from us, because again, he doesn't know the difference between any of these things. Kent has no actual concept of a solar system or star system versus a galaxy cluster versus the universe as a whole. It's all just a haze of stuff above the Earth. And he doesn't have any interest in understanding any of it. Yet he will still say that the scientists who spend decades doing nothing in their professional life but working on this don't know what they're talking about because they're not reading the Bible right, and if they are, they're just ignoring it. The guy who doesn't know the difference between the solar system and the universe is going to tell you what's wrong about your astronomy, Mr. Professional PhD astronomer. It's mind-bogglingly narcissistic, hubristic.
Really bad.
It's ugh.
It's worth taking a drink over.
Yeah, that's true. I'll take a drink. Oh, we got a few things. Rail Gatubello said for $2 says, "Is the canopy in the Oort cloud?" You know, I would say sure. Maybe that's what that is. Maybe that's a way you could take that. Except that Kent generally rejects the existence of the Oort cloud anyway, so he doesn't have that to fall back on. Then Savage Cobra, the Eddie Car Invertebrate for $5 says, "The flood happened when God reversed the polarities, holding up the canopy out of the atmosphere." Wait, is God secretly like the third Doctor? Is that what's actually going on? Is he Mr. Pertwee going around with his TARDIS broken, doing jobs for Earth governments and using the sonic screwdriver, and being close personal friends with Mao Zedong, which was something that did not age well. Doctor Who, you don't really need to have the Doctor be personal friends with the guy who killed more people than Mustache Man from Germany. That's not a thing that's necessary. Yeah. Anyway, Goop23 for $5 says, when someone asks a service worker for something impossible, is this some sort of Caucasian thing? Okay. First, yes, that is excellent. Second, there are actually a group of languages known as Caucasian, or the languages of the Caucasus Mountains. It's a real group of languages. William Hopkins, who's been a member for 9 months and is at the Amniote level, says, "It's a miracle Kent is not a flat earther. Seriously, how did he manage to dodge that one?" Oh, I can tell you exactly how. It wasn't big when he was growing up and going to school. That's it. When he was doing his formative years as a young Earth creationist, no one was talking about the flat Earth. If you were to take young Kent forward in time, so that 8-year-old Kent were around now, I can almost guarantee that he would fall for the flat Earth and he would be a flat earther. I've seen Kent on his old channel that YouTube destroyed try to debunk the flat Earth. He can't do it. All he can do is call flat earthers stupid, which, I mean, okay, fair enough, but that doesn't actually negate any of the things that they're saying. That isn't a response to anything. Even though, I mean, it's obviously true that you can't be a flat earther without being very, very dumb. But that's his entire response. He doesn't at all actually get into any of the reasons that we know about this. He doesn't go into things like angular size of the sun, time zones, the location of the sunrise on equinoxes. He doesn't go into the length of day in places like far south, like Antarctica or Tierra del Fuego, or southern bits of Australia and New Zealand. He doesn't go into anything like equatorial mounted telescopes and how that would be impossible on a flat Earth. The fact that a southern polar rotation doesn't make any sense on a North Pole centric flat Earth. He doesn't go into any of that stuff. It's just, oh man, you guys are idiots. Look at the pictures. Which, I mean, okay, yeah, but that's not going to convince any flat earthers. It's not even a good argument against any flat earthers. And so, yeah, I guarantee that the only reason he missed out on being a flat earth is because he was too old when flat earth became prominent. Because remember, Kent Hovind's big time of his formative years, they were pre-internet. Right? So Kent was growing up before the internet foisted flat earth into all of our consciousness. And so that's really it. That's the only reason why. Because the thing is, nothing that he says about science is actually functionally, qualitatively different than what flat earthers say. It's just as stupid. It's just as wrong. It's just as completely crazy. It's just that it wasn't popular when he was growing up. Yeah, Vagary points out, like, why is there a horizon at all? Yeah. I mean, you could say that things would fade out of view because of Ariel's perspective. I'd buy that, but that's not the same thing as a horizon. Savage Cobra, the Eddie Akaran vertebrate for $5 says, YouTube executed the Ellen Ripley quarantine protocol on Kent's channel. Yes, it did. Big time. And then he went on his second channel to say that YouTube wanted him to buy back his subs, which is not how YouTube works. He thought that if he paid YouTube, they would give him back his subscribers, not understanding that what he was actually looking at was just third-party subscriber purchases, which get you dead subscribers. It's actually bad for your channel to do it, right? Like, the only reason I can ever see anyone doing it is if they're like, oh, I'm really close to like the 1,000 mark, and I only need like 50 subscribers. Okay, fine. I guess if you buy 50 subscribers, it's probably not going to hurt your channel that much. But it's still a bad idea overall, because if YouTube finds out, they'll kick you out. Well, I don't bother to buy subscribers, because it won't help. If my channel says I have 500,000 subscribers, but I don't get any more views, YouTube will notice that none of my subscribers are watching, and they're going to stop recommending to even my active subscribers. It's a bad idea. Don't do it.
Out there, but I don't think you're going to explain Genesis 1, 6, and 7, and 2 Peter 3. The earth was made out of the water and in the water without having.
Oh no. Oh, okay. There's some IPA. Okay. I was going to say this is actual Georgian alphabet. An alphabet I don't know. I can't read Georgian. But apparently, L-A-I-G, so AIG Toprak Wait. It's just That's that letter just anyway. Yeah. AIG Toprak Thanks. I think I rolled that in our turn of tapping it. Toprak. Yeah. Anyway. To be, that was from Astro Lucifer is my headmate review for $1.99, and then for $4.99, Roshina Evolutionized Keller comes in and says, to be fair, Kent isn't an apologist. He's a nuh-uh to your nuh-uh. He does that with everything. Evolution, flat earth, nuclear physics. Yeah, he's even worse than the average, like, apologist when it comes to, nuh-uh. So take a drink for the AIG's a bag of dicks. In actual Georgian, again, a language whose alphabet I do not know. And, although I do actually have a book with some Georgian in it. I have a book called The Apostolic Fathers, which is basically a bunch of pre-Nicene Christian writings, and the fragments of Papias exist in scattered little bits in other works, and some of them are actually written in Georgian. And so if I turn to the fragments of Papias section of the Apostolic Fathers, there's some Georgian in there, and I can't even begin to read it.
Having a canopy. And so I said, Walt, how do you explain the giant insects? He said, I have a problem with that one.
You don't need a giant water canopy for giant insects, Ken. Okay, so giant terrestrial arthropods in general, because they weren't all insects, right? There were myriapods like Arthropleura. By the way, myriapods are just the group of animals that include centipedes and millipedes. So they're not actually crustaceans like insects are. They're not arachnids like spiders and scorpions and whatnot. They're their own little extra group of mandibulates. They're closer to crustaceans than they are to arachnids because they're both in Mandibulata, which is the group of arthropods that have the mandibles, the little jaw bits that go side to side. Arachnids are part of Chelicerata, who have basally claw-like and vertically articulating jaw parts. But in many of them, they've been modified to inject various things, like spider fangs. And also in many of them, they no longer articulate strictly in a, like laterally flattened plane. They sometimes go side to side. Spiders famously have pushed around their chelicerae so that a lot of them can goes either up and down or side to side. It doesn't matter. Look, mandibulates. A lot of them, the giant arthropods from, like the Carboniferous were that. What matters is the partial pressure of oxygen. Now, there's a few different ways you can get partial pressure, right? So partial pressure is just the measure of how much that particular gas contributes to the pressure felt by something. So, for instance, if you had an all-oxygen atmosphere, as many early manned spacecraft did, you don't actually need to pressurize the total air pressure nearly as high, because all of the air is, in fact, oxygen. And so you can get away with much, much lower pressure, which is easier to do and requires the vessel to have less... you don't have to have as strong a pressure vessel if you're going to just pressurize it with just oxygen for humans to survive. Some of the very earliest of the manned flights that NASA did were just oxygen atmospheres, which seems weird. Like, imagine just being in a super low pressure environment, but it's okay because it's all oxygen. I just feel like that would be weird. But anyway, another way that you can increase the partial pressure. So one way, yeah, a vapor canopy that increases the total pressure on Earth would indeed increase the partial pressure of oxygen, allowing for larger organisms that require oxygen. That being said, a higher oxygen content would also do that. And we have amber and things like that from previous periods of Earth's history, and we know that oxygen levels were in fact higher in the past, which means that the high pressure option doesn't actually help. We don't have any evidence of a high pressure system on Earth, but we do have evidence of higher amounts of oxygen. Let's see. We've got a couple things. Tyler V, for $1.99, says, in honor of fall, AIG is a big bushel of gourds. I'll take a drink for that. I was actually thinking maybe pumpkin soup might be a fun thing to make sometime. Okay, Rosa Maka Maka is helping me with an alphabet that I know a little bit of. Something. I don't remember what the letter on the fourth word is. Backwardsy looking thing. Something to Meshach? Yeah? I think. Something like that. Look, my Cyrillic is really bad. So. But I did better than probably the average American would. But I'm also pretty sure that there's some kind of answers in Genesis. It's a bag of dicks, so we'll take a drink for it. So thank you very much. Goodness. All right, we're going to get a little bit more Kent, and we're going to go on a quick break.
So, well, I don't. Not if there's a layer of water. You get more air pressure. You have no problem with giant insects. Anyway, I believe there was a canopy of water above the atmosphere.
Okay, I mean, it's physically impossible, but sure, Kent, you can believe whatever you want. Most of the things you believe are already physically impossible. I guess this isn't any worse.
The crust of the earth. Now, we'll get into more of that later, because the Bible talks about that twice. It tells us there was water under the crust of the earth.
Oh, yeah, that is the Walt Brown thing. So Walt Brown is the guy who came up with hydroplate theory. Well, I use the word theory very, very loosely. So the two main flood models that exist right now for young Earth creationists are hydroplate theory and the much, much more popular catastrophic plate tectonics, which was developed by John Baumgartner while he was working over at Sandia National Laboratories, doing some kind of geology thing. Which is a weird place, by the way. I was supposed to go there and do a whole bunch of work, and then they lost my access request. And so I'm sitting there waiting for my clearance to actually go on site and do stuff. And they just never call my name. So I go up and I'm like, hey, what's the deal? And they're like, we don't have you on the list. So then I had to go to like the job supervisor and say, hey, they don't have me on the list. And he went to the guy who was coordinating the job with the national laboratories, and they were like, oh, we forgot to submit his name. So finally my name gets submitted, and like they're like, okay, well now you're on the list, but we're closing, so we can't process this request. I'm like, so do I come back tomorrow? And they're like, no, we're not issuing the training tomorrow. Like, so, and they're like, you should probably just go home. It's like, okay, sure, I'll just go home. So yeah, I took a trip out to Sandia National Laboratories, rented a car, got plane tickets, all on a company dime, for just no reason at all. I just left the next day. Yeah, and I call my manager. I'm like, do you have anything for me to do? Like maybe in like the Phoenix area? He's like, no, just I don't know, do training. So I went and I did the bloodborne pathogens training in English and then in Spanish. Because why not?
Because you had the time.
Yes. Okay, so Roshan Evolutionized Color for $4.99 says, Kemp thinks that higher pressure causes higher ratio of oxygen to nitrogen. I don't think he thinks that. I think he's... Okay, so actually I don't know if he thinks that. But what it will cause is a higher partial pressure of oxygen, which will make it easier for oxygen to diffuse across like cell membranes and diffuse through like hemolymph and things like that. So it will cause a higher increase in the partial pressure of oxygen. Now, it'll also cause a higher partial pressure for all the other gases, but that's only really a problem if those gases are themselves toxic, have a way to deal with them, or you're going to be then getting the bends or something, right? So it'll also dissolve more nitrogen into your hemolymph or blood or whatever. But if you're going to be living under those conditions, that's fine. That doesn't matter. So, yeah, there's that. Savage Cobra, the Ediacar invertebrate for $2 says, AIG is a bag of diseased rhinoceros pizzles. Gross. I'll take a drink for it, though. Right, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to get myself a new drink. This is a great time if anyone wants to, do any kind of biology stuff. Take a break. Get us new snack. We will be right back after this message from Top Hats Off, followed by some musical stylings from Bent Hovind. We will see you right on the other side of the break. Next time on Star Trek Lexington.
Chief Medical Officer's Log. Stardate 5540.6. The Lexington is en route to Kambari 2, an Aurelian colony near the Klingon neutral zone. The planet is being ravaged by Sicorian pox, a horrible disease that causes permanent scarring across the body in the best case, and death in the worst case. We are at high warp and expected in the system within a day. Critically, the vaccines were manufactured on Andoria and must remain cold until delivery. Cargo Bay 1 has been turned into a climate-controlled freezer.
A routine delivery mission turns into a race against time when the Lexington's engines are disabled. The crew must get them repaired before it's too late. But how did this happen, and perhaps more importantly, who caused it? Find out on Star Trek Lexington. And we are back. Thank you very much, everyone. Just in case you didn't know, that little teaser at the beginning was for Star Trek Lexington, my Star Trek Adventures actual play campaign that I play on my second channel, Top Hats Off. I just linked it in the description. The next episode, episode 4. It features a number of people you might recognize. It has Ziralon, it has Crusher the Croxagore, it has Zarna Rankar, it has Chesh, it has Jordan from Reason to Doubt, and Craig from FTFE. It is a pretty cool game, if I do say so myself. I am pouring more Baja Blast into this cup. And yeah, so with that being said, it is time for, real quick, for the after the break little talk, which is to say, hey guys, I really appreciate how generous you guys are. We are well past the pace for getting Bent to wear a tutu next time. We are actually on pace that we could get Bent free pizza, which probably won't be something he gets today because I'm pretty sure he already ate a pizza today.
I did eat a pizza today.
So
it was pretty good.
Yeah. But hey, that could be later in the week, right? Especially since I
Yeah.
forgot to make the rice I was going to make. Oops. Anyway, that being said, if you are currently enjoying the show or the channel in general, and you are thinking that maybe you want to contribute to helping keeping it going or even improving, there are a number of great ways for you to do so with financial support. One, of course, is Patreon. It is linked in the description. Both myself and Bent have one. It is a place where I get to keep about 90% of what you give me, which is about the most that I ever get from any other source. So that is my recommended. But there's also the channel memberships. There's a join button right below this video. Both of those give you early access to my scripted videos months and months in advance. They also both give you access to my special Discord server. There are even more perks at higher levels. The Patreon starts at only $1 a month. You can get a 15% discount if you go annually. It goes all the way up to $100 a month if you're really feeling generous. There's the channel membership start at $1.99, and I believe they go up to $19.99. There is no annual option there. The memberships also give you the cool green name, the symbol next to your name, where a lot of people you can see that have little top-hatted tetrapods, or dapper faces, or Ceratosaurus skulls, or things like that. That's how you get those. It also gives you access to the channel emojis. If a monthly or annual pledge isn't your deal, there's a lot of other options. We have a merch store that's right under this video. You can just look at the merch shelf. If none of that interests you, click through to the merch store. There's more stuff than it can fit on the shelf. There is also an Amazon wish list for both B and Bent, linked in the description, where you can just get us some fun stuff, or, you know, some snacks or something. Which actually I have to thank Christy. I got the plain GM screen from Christy, who says, "Enjoy your gift." So thank you very much, Christy. Now I just need the core rulebook that goes along with it. So, yeah. That can help too. And of course, liking and sharing are, of course, the free ways to help. So subscribe, like this video, and share it around. Those are the free ways to help this channel, and they really do help. And also, of course, there is my second channel, which currently is about halfway to opening up memberships and super chats. So if you want to help me out over there, you can just put on one of my playlists in the background while you're doing other stuff, or you can watch it. I mean, the longest playlist that's on there is the Power Rangers Jungle Beasts, which features, of course, Bent Hovind as our Green Ranger.
Yay.
So, you know, there's that. Let's see, we got a couple things to read. Roshina Evolutionized Color for $4.99 says, Kent used a higher oxygen ratio in amber as, quote, proof the pressure was higher. Oh, that's dumb. That's not at all how that works. Well, then, I gave Kent too much benefit of the doubt. Sorry, Kent, you're dumber than I was thinking, which shouldn't surprise me. But also, Savage Cobra, the Eddie Car Invertebrate, just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. So let's take a drink for, 5 drinks for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's continue on with Kent.
Before the flood, the people lived to be 900 years old, average 912. After the flood, lifespans dropped off quickly, so something changed. Maybe several things changed.
Okay, Kent, in the narrative, I agree with you. But if you want to use this as evidence of the flood, you have to establish that these were real people and that was really their ages. But the only source you have for that, it's the same book that is causing you to make the claim about the flood in the first place, right? So, the Bible is making both the flood claim and the genealogical ages claim. Both of those require evidence, which the Bible isn't, at least in science. So if you want to say that what you're teaching is at least as much science as, say, evolution, which has things that are offered in evidence that aren't just the claim itself, you're going to also need to do that. I've never even heard anyone attempt to offer actual evidence that these ages were accurate. They just say, well, they're in the Bible. Okay, great. Lots of things are in the Bible that just aren't true. Like, I don't know, that you can get stripy and spotted animals to be born if their parents drink water and mate near stripy sticks. That's not how genetics works, Kent. It's how the Bible says it works, though. So, if we want to go on this whole taking the Bible literally thing, the Bible literally says the value for pi is 3. It's not. It's close, but it's not. Normally, I wouldn't consider this to be a knock on the Bible because most people don't feel like literally every single word of the Bible has to be completely 100% true or the whole thing falls apart. because that's a weirdly weird standard to have. But I mean, if that's your standard, then you have to accept that pi is 3. There's lots of things in the Bible that just didn't happen, Kent.
But certainly something changed to make them live longer. And I
Yes, in the narrative, something did. The world was a harsher place after the flood.
believe very sincerely that dinosaurs were just big lizards that lived with Adam and Eve in the
Oh my god, we're gonna take a drink. Dinosaurs are not lizards. Kent does this repeatedly. Now, here's the thing. This is a man who has called himself Dr. Dino for decades. Right? When I was growing up with that human family that took me in out of the kindness of their mammal hearts, we were looking at Kent Hovind in church and whatnot. He was calling himself Dr. Dino. I first knew him as Dr. Dino. However, when I asked him to his face how to tell if an animal is a dinosaur, he said he'd never even thought to look into it. It had just never occurred to him to ever know what a dinosaur is. Because remember, what is a dinosaur and how do you tell if an animal is a dinosaur are the same question. If you can't answer one, you can't answer the other. And if you can answer one, you can answer both. Kent has never known what a dinosaur is. So let's quickly show what a dinosaur is and what a lizard is and why they're not the same thing. So the first thing to know about lizards is that lizards, by and large, have closed up one of their temporal fenestrae. They only have one evident temporal fenestra. This is a hole behind the ear, in the back of the head, that serves as a point of attachment for muscles, as well as having some kind of thermoregulatory qualities in some animals at least, right? Most dinosaurs do not have this, and rather than closing one up, birds actually tended to fuse theirs together so that they have a sort of combined anterior and superior and inferior temporal fenestrae. Real quick, As Lucifer is my headmate Ryu says, to be fair, a lot of young Earth creationist pundits are engineers who, as well as we well know, are taught that pi and e are both equal to 3, so... I mean, yeah, that's a good point. I also apparently forgot to update the counter here, so we're at 70% of the way to making Bent wear a tutu. Yeah. Okay.
That can happen. I believe in you.
Absolutely. So, some other things. Lizards also have a parietal eye. Basically, their pineal gland is near the top of their skull, and there's actually a whole opening in the skull that allows light to filter through the skin at the top of the skull to the pineal gland that helps lizards then regulate their circadian rhythms. Dinosaurs don't have that. Lizards also are pleurodont, which means that they have a groove in their maxilla and premaxilla, as well as their dentary bone, out of which teeth grow. They don't have individual sockets, they have a single groove that all the teeth grow through. Dinosaurs have individual sockets, like mammals, unlike lizards. Additionally, unlike lizards, which retain 5 fingers on basically all limbs except for really weird versions like snakes, dinosaurs typically have 4 toes and 3 fingers for most lineages. Some lineages retain more, but very few lineages retain 5 fingers and toes on all limbs. Let's see. Dr. Tapioca Weasel just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. So thank you very much. We're at 76% of the way there. Here's 5 drinks. 1. Out of memory. What is happening today? 3. 4. And 5. I think my computer needs a restart. I was struggling a little bit with some of the Satisfactory. Although, to be fair, I was shooting myself across the map with cannons, so it's a little bit on the memory-intensive side. Look, it just takes too long to get from one side of the map to the other, so, you know, I build a hypertube cannon.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Exactly. Vandalian 1998 for $5 says, we need to go back in time and stop stop using the source part of dinosaurs so creations can't call them lizards anymore. I mean, that and killing baby Hitler. Those are the two big, really important things that we really need to get on when we invent time travel. And Josh Biggie says, also gifted 5 more Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Thank you so much. We're at 83%. Here's what we'll drink. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, importantly, dinosaurs. Like I said, their teeth grow from sockets. They generally do not fuse up one of their fenestrae. Instead, they're more likely to actually remove the strata bone between them. although there are exceptions. They also, almost all of them have what's called an open acetabulum. In fact, anything with an open acetabulum, including birds, is a dinosaur. The only dinosaurs that ever close up that I'm aware of are ankylosaurs, who secondarily close up that acetabulum. Also, their limbs, unlike those of lizards, which have the basal tetrapod condition where the limbs stick out to the side from the body wall, dinosaurs, much like mammals, have limbs that go down from the body wall so that they're upright. And they do this by having a femoral head that's actually turned towards the center line of the body. Now, this is important because there are some reptiles in the past that walked upright with their limbs straight down that actually had their femoral head in line with the shaft, and the acetabulum actually faced down instead of facing inward like in most animals, which is super weird. It's called pillar erect limbs, but you find it in certain crocodile line archosaurs from the Triassic. So you can't just say with upright limbs. Dinosaurs also have a few other key aspects. They have a deltopectoral crest that has a particular shape. They also have certain proportions of the limb. Basically, the humerus is a certain proportion of the length of the radius. They also have various things like a crocodile reverse ankle joint, such that their ankle can only articulate in the sagittal plane, so it can't go side to side like your ankle can. That makes their strides more efficient and less prone to injury, but also makes them less flexible. They also have more than three or more sacral vertebrae, so that's a vertebrae attached to the hip. And those vertebrae are firmly attached, forming either a synsacrum or almost forming a synsacrum, which is a solid chunk of bone formed from the sacral arches and the vertebrae, which lizards don't. Their hips are largely floating, again, because they're not supporting nearly as much weight, and they're doing it in a much less stressful position, where they can do things like rest on their bellies when they need to. Let's see. Asked Lucifer is my headmate Ryu for $4.99 says, to be fair, one of the most famous examples of math in a scientific field is the vacuum catastrophe, 90 orders of magnitude worse than the heat problem. Yeah, the vacuum catastrophe was bad. I'm glad we figured out that one. It was yeah. Is the vacuum? I'm thinking of the infrared catastrophe, not the vacuum catastrophe. Vacuum catastrophe is the one that hasn't been figured out yet. Sorry, I was thinking of the black body heat problem that arose from classical physics, where basically most things should be radiating absurd amounts of ultraviolet light if you use classical mechanics the way it was understood, and people were like, why isn't it? Anyway, yeah, so there's a number of ways to tell dinosaurs apart from lizards, and no one who actually knows what they're talking about could possibly mix them up. But Kent doesn't know what he's talking about. And I can demonstrate that very clearly because of just my debate. The video that mostly kicked this channel off. Roshna Evolutionized Keller for $9.99 says, like flat earthers, Kent also doesn't understand You mean gravity? The closest he gets is pre-relativity idea of What is mavity? You know what mavity is? I'm so confused. Because I thought it was gravity, but then it's been repeated several times. It's mavity, mavitons, mavioles, and mavitational force carriers. I'm so confused. I'm going to say gravity. Like flat earthers, Kent also doesn't understand gravity. The closest he gets is pre-relativity ideas of gravitons and gravioles as the gravitational force carriers. But then if I say it the other way, mavity, closest he gets is pre-relativity idea of mavitons and mavioles as the mavitational force carrier. I'm so confused. But thank you. I appreciate it. You've confused the heck out of me, though. I am now questioning the reality in which I find myself. Have I switched to an alternate reality?
You were always in the alternate reality.
Oh, I've just switched back to the prime timeline now?
Finally.
All right. Well, Dr. Tapioca Weasel, see, now the whole Mavity Gravity thing has been like, I just can't even talk anymore. This gets in 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships, so let's take 5 drinks. 1, 2, 3, 4.
The Garden of Eden. Then we talked about that earlier. They were part of the normal creation. So why would God destroy the world?
I mean, if you take the text seriously, he's just kind of a dick, right? Like, if you actually take the text literally, Genesis 1 through 11 presents God as just kind of a dick. So, I don't know, I guess that's why. It's almost like that on its own is a good reason to maybe not take the whole thing seriously. Oh, it was a Doctor Who reference. Donna made Isaac Newton. Oh, I do not remember that episode at all, even though I really like Donna. Okay.
He's got this beautiful world he made. Why would he wreck the whole thing? And not only why, but how? How did this happen? How can you have a worldwide flood?
I mean, on Earth, as described in the Bible, you just can't. Right? It's physically impossible, which is why we don't say that it happened in real science. In real science, if you want to propose that something happened, it has to at least be, like, physically possible. There has to be some mechanism by which it could occur. There currently isn't. All the proposed mechanisms, whether it be hydroplate or catastrophic plate tectonics or any of the other fringe ideas, don't actually have a physically possible mechanism. They have physically impossible mechanisms. For instance, with the hydroplate theory, the idea that, the Earth's crust was sitting above an ocean with various pillars that were holding up the crust, and then those pillars cracked, and the subcrustal oceans burst forth, ejecting all sorts of stuff into space, causing literally all the craters we can see on any planet or moon in the entire solar system. Yeah, that would boil the oceans. And also, there would be evidence of these fissures. There is none. Catastrophic plate tectonics would similarly, as well as accelerated nuclear decay, which they both have this problem, would in fact cause enough heat to overcome the gravitational binding energy of the Earth. Earth would be Alderaan. There would be nothing left. It would be a floating debris cloud, mostly made of plasma. Savage Cobra, the Ediacar invertebrate for $2 says AIG is a bag of yellow in Genesis. Okay, at least Genesis 1 through 11. He becomes much less of a dick once you get out of the primeval history, but sure. Again, if we're taking the stories as literal historical events as depicted in Genesis 1 through 11. Roshna Evolutionized Keller for $1.99 says, catch up on the 14th and 15th Doctors. No. I'm just not going to.
Do it.
I'm probably not going to.
You'd love the 14th Doctor.
Which one is the 14th?
I'm not going to tell you, but you would love the 14th Doctor.
Maybe I would. Maybe I probably wouldn't.
Why would God destroy his beautiful creation? The Bible says in Genesis chapter 6, God saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Not like today.
Okay, so currently everyone on Earth, except for a few, are wicked continually. You guys are currently watching this with evil intent. Anytime you're going out and figuring out, what to eat for lunch, you're doing it evilly, because every thought is evil. Yeah, I don't think that's true, Kent. I don't think everything everyone is doing is being done with evil in their hearts. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. 14 is Tenant.
Pretty much the same, right? By the way, God still sees. Notice it says...
Oh, and then Roshna Evolutionized Keller gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Which, guess what? Bent, you are wearing a tutu next time. Let's take 5 drinks.
Nice.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But the real question is, will Bent get free pizza? Don't know.
Fingers crossed.
God saw the wickedness of man that was great in the earth, and so he also saw every imagination of the thoughts of his heart. It's interesting that God not only sees your thoughts, he sees the imaginations of the thoughts.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but it sure is interesting according to Kent.
I guess. I have no idea what that even means. Now, my guess is that if I were better at King James English specifically, I'd probably know more about what that means. That doesn't mean anything to me.
See, that's an interesting verse. I'm sure nobody's ever gotten to the bottom of that one as far as studying what it really all means in there. But
okay, so Kent doesn't know what it means, but it's interesting, though. You know what, Bent? We're going to call that a prediction on your part and take a drink for it.
All right. It's about time I make a prediction.
When is free pizza? Don't know exactly, but it's really, really close. I could actually calculate it out. Give me a second. I have to open up my calculator because I'm not doing math in my head. Because doing math in your head is for people who are still in school. I am not. So let's see. It is just past 105%. So if we can get to 106%, we'll definitely get there.
Nice.
At least according to my math. If my math is wrong, then who knows? But Arafami just gifted 5 more Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Which does it. Bent gets free piz. Because apparently I cut off the pizza part. Okay, well, first of all, Dapper's a professional, so we'll take a drink for that. I will, I'll fix that here real quick. Look. Oh, now it's a pizza. Doesn't say piz anymore. Well, let's take 5 drinks. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Thank you very much. I'm going to take away the pizza indicator because it's big. No more pizza indicator. However, at 200%, we do get Dapper wearing a tutu in his human suit on the next live stream, which gets rid of Bent's obligation. So, if you want to force me to wear a tutu, you know what to do. Bent gets a free pizzle. Bent, if you want a free pizzle instead of a pizza, I'll do that for you. Is that what you want?
I think I'll stick with the pizza.
Oh, are you sure?
I mean,
Have you tried a pizzle?
Not that I can remember.
Well, it might be great. All right, here we go.
You know, you can not only think about things, you can think about what you're thinking about.
Yes, Kent, it's called metacognition. We all know this. I mean, we might not all know that it's called metacognition, but everyone knows that you can think about thinking. Fight Mage Studio says, I just showed up and I wanted to say I like your work. Have you ever considered devouring Congress with your mighty jaw? Yes, unfortunately their security is actually fairly tight and I am very bad at stealth. So, unfortunately, I cannot do that. But, you know, if someone wanted to sneak in some stealthier dinosaurs and cause like a hard restart on the entirety of the legislative branch of the United States of America, I wouldn't really cry about it. Let's just say that. But only if you have dinosaurs. It's the only way it's acceptable. Only with dinosaurs. And non-avian dinosaurs, too. We gotta actually really make this really good, like a Jurassic World kind of situation. Which I haven't even seen the most recent 2 Jurassic Worlds.
How many Jurassic Worlds are there?
I think there's been a third one that's come out.
Okay.
There was Jurassic World. There was Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which... Oh, no, I did see Fallen Kingdom. Okay, so I've only not seen one of them. It was Dominion. Okay, sorry about that. I didn't lie, but I was mistaken. I've not seen the most recent one, but I did see Fallen Kingdom. I just also kind of escaped from my brain very, very quickly. So... And I had to think about, like, which one is that? And I was like, oh, yeah, it was the one that, like, most of it takes place in a mansion. And there's, like, the little girl who, spoilers, is a clone, just like the dinosaurs. Anyway, Roshan, Evolutionized Keller for $4.99 says, I'm assuming Dapper Dinosaur is offering a large golden shower with pizzle. Not to Ben. So, if that's what you were hoping for, no, sorry, Ben.
I'm sticking with the pizza.
Okay.
To decide if it's a good thought or a bad thought. You can actually pass judgment on your thoughts.
Whoa.
To decide if they're good or bad.
Kent is describing something that's common to basically everyone, and somehow assuming that makes it a big deal.
The mind is absolutely amazing. It's not only, 3 pounds of gray matter. There's a physical organ called the brain. And there are more electrical connections in the human brain than there are electrical connections in the entire world.
Doesn't the world contain the brain?
Yeah.
And then a whole bunch of other brains?
A lot of human brains.
Are our brains now recursive, just like electrons from Mud Fossil U? Your brain has infinite electrical connections now, everybody. Good job. Way to have a fractal brain. I'm just going to take a drink for brains being recursive, apparently. See, you could have fixed this by just saying inorganic electrical connections, right? You just throw that word in there, inorganic. Solves the problem. Instead, you made recursive brains your talking point, which I don't think was your intention. Let's see, Savage Cobra, the Ediacarn Invertebrate says, top hat of greater darkness, plus 10 paleontology, plus 72 linguistics, plus 4 charisma, minus 10 stealth. You're not wrong, although I think you should take a few points off of linguistics and add them onto paleontology. I think everyone overestimates my linguistic skills because my audience knows more about paleontology than linguistics. Like, if I did a language channel and I had a bunch of language nerds on here, I don't think they would be as nearly as impressed with my linguistics prowess.
Everything that man has ever built, all of the connections inside every computer, inside every phone system, inside every electrical system in the world, just your little brain has more connections than that.
Barry says also that stopped being true like 15-ish years ago, if I remember right, about the brain versus like inorganic electrical connections. This talk is actually probably more than 15 years old, so I'm going to give him a pass on that. But that is interesting, and I would be interested to know like who did that calculation and like where I can check up on it, because that is interesting to me. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me for that to be wrong now because of just Bitcoin farming on its own, or mining on its own, with all of those like server rooms full of like graphics cards just stacked on top of each other. That by itself is going to be a huge number of electrical connections. And then, I mean, data centers are like a big business. In fact, people are putting data centers in Phoenix, Arizona. I know, I worked at a few of them. It's ridiculous. And it's basically just because of tax reasons. It's actually a really, really bad place to put a data server because of the problems with cooling. Where if your cooling goes down, well, you're screwed. Fast, too. Yeah. So I remember working at a data center once in their electrical distribution system, and because we had to turn it off, they had to basically shut down the entire place, and they also had to bring out swamp coolers because it was dangerously hot otherwise. I remember just thinking, like, this might be the worst place in the world for a data center, save like Death Valley. And I realized, yeah, it's just the tax structure in Arizona, which is easier to get through as a company than it is in California. But like, go to Alaska. Put some data centers in Alaska. Then again, I've been to data centers in all sorts of other places. Whatever. That was actually another time where I actually ended up not doing a job because they forgot about entry requirements when they assigned me the job. I get to a job at a data center in Phoenix, and the guy I'm working with that day is like, "Oh, hey, you got your card?" I'm like, "What card?" He's like, "The ID card to let you get into the data center." I'm like, "No one ever told me anything about this. I've never been to this place before at all." He's like, "Oh, well, they're not going to let you in. We'll see if they have, like, classes to let you get the security access card." They didn't. So the guy I was working with was just like, "Go home. I'll see you at the next job today." And then by the time I get to the next job, I'm there on time. And he was like, "Oh, I showed up an hour ago and I finished the job. You can go home." I was like, "What are you doing to me, man? What is this?" I'm like, "All right, bye." I went home. I have a whole bunch of stories about jobs that I didn't end up doing because someone at the job site or at my higher up in my like organizational structure just dropped the ball entirely.
But God understands the imaginations of the thoughts of the heart. I'd like to understand that one of these days. But he said they're only evil continually, and it repented the Lord. Now some people have argued, see, the Bible contradicts itself because it says God cannot repent. And here it says God repented.
Yes, I mean, that sounds like a contradiction to me. But I'm curious to see what kind of tortured line of excuses Kent is going to go through to say that that's not actually what's.
And we'll get into more of that on videotape number 7, which will be much later on here. When we get.
He's going to fall that off to a different day. But yeah, look, it is a contradiction in the Bible because the Bible is not a coherent book written by a single person with a single voice and a single authorial intent, a single view of God. It's just not. Anyone who wants to use the Bible to inform their ideas about God is going to have to choose which parts to prioritize and which parts to deprioritize. And that's just how it is for all groups of people who use the Bible as a text about informing their religious ideas. There are no other options. You can pretend to yourself that that's not what you're doing, but it is.
Get into, are there contradictions in the Bible? No, there are no contradictions. Not if you got a King James Bible, anyway.
Okay, just take a drink, everybody.
The King James.
That
Bible.
is, oh my goodness. Yeah, that does not help. Having a King James Bible does not at all help. It just means that you're guaranteed to have the wrong reading in certain places.
You won't find any contradictions in there.
Okay.
If you have some of the other versions, you certainly will.
Joshua Geese just gifted 5 more Dapper Dinosaur memberships. My goodness, you. Thank you so much. Take 5 drinks. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Somehow I think I'm safe from wearing a tutu, but we're getting there. We're getting close.
Find contradictions. I mean, just clear contradictions, and we'll get into all of that later on.
Not now, though. And then Carnival Frog gets another 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Thank you so much. Take 5 more drinks. I'm going to have to go get a third Baja Blast here soon. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
This CSE 10, actually in CSE 104, where we should hope to finish up everything.
Spoiler, there's a CSE 201. He does not finish up everything.
Genesis chapter 6, verse number 7. And the Lord said, I will destroy man. Who's he talking to?
Noah?
Well, I don't understand this either, but the Bible teaches there's a Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
It doesn't. That's a later development of Christian theology. I don't care to dispute it or tell you should or shouldn't believe it, but it's not in the Bible. You cannot get the doctrine of the Trinity from the Bible on its own. You have to import extra-biblical, post-biblical, traditional interpretive frameworks into the Bible in order to get a Trinity out of it. Now, that doesn't mean it's not true, but it also doesn't mean you can get it out of the Bible. Now, God's either talking to Noah or he's talking to the divine council, because in Genesis, as well as throughout the Old Testament, God has a divine council. Now, whether or not they're actually other gods or they're angels or whatever is going to depend both on which part of the Bible you're reading, as well as how you want to interpret the various words. But as originally intended, at least in the oldest strata of the Old Testament, they are in fact a divine council made up of other gods, who are either God, like Adonai's siblings, or children, again, depending on just how old this section is. And so if he's talking to anyone, it's his divine council. So it's other subordinate deities. Because nothing in the Old Testament in any way denies the existence of other gods. It says that Adonai is the God of Israel and the only one they're supposed to be worshiping. But it absolutely does not deny the existence of other deities. In fact, it seems to assume their actual existence and actual power. Now, later theologians have interpreted these other deities as like maybe demonic forces or something, but that's not indicated in the text of the Old Testament. And then in the New Testament, while there's less actual explicit acknowledgement of the existence and the power of other deities besides Adonai, or, Otheos, because we're doing Greek now in the New Testament, it also does not have any particular statements that you could infer as denying their existence either. So, if you want to get to there is only one God, you need to go past the Bible in theology, which is why anyone who pretends that they're sola scriptura is just lying to themselves. You're not. Unless, of course, you're rejecting all of these doctrines that aren't actually in the Bible, like monotheism or the Trinity, which aren't in there. That doesn't make them wrong. It doesn't make them the proper Christian position. I don't care about those questions. At least not for the purposes of this channel. But what they aren't is biblical.
And apparently he talks to himself and decides what to do.
I mean, I do that, so I guess God is allowed to, too. I mean, Ben, do you talk to yourself sometimes?
All the time.
Yeah. That's just a normal thing to do. If there's a God out there, and he's anything like a person, which the Bible definitely does portray him as personal, I wouldn't be surprised if he talks to himself. I do it.
I guess I do that all the time also.
Hey! We'll take a drink, Kent. Good job. You figured out that that's just a normal thing for persons to do. We all do it. In fact, here you go. We'll take a poll. We'll start a poll. Do you ever talk to yourself? Question. That's the question. So here we go. We got a poll going. You ever talk to yourself?
Well, I says to myself, self, what should we do about that? So God, the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast and the creeping thing and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them.
Mm-hmm.
The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, and all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. Now, I'm not sure if this all flesh means just all humans, or by this time had something happened, and the animals were also corrupt, and they were violent, and eating each other when they weren't supposed to be, or fighting each other.
Well, later in the flood story, God is said to have wiped out all flesh, and then it goes on to list what that means. And it's basically all living things that weren't in the ark, including the insects and other invertebrates that Answers in Genesis pretends didn't have to be on the ark, even though the Bible explicitly says they were on the ark. Because, of course, once again, the on-earth creationists don't actually care about what the Bible says. They just care about their particular theological tradition, which is sometimes directly at odds with what the Bible says. So, I'm pretty sure if we're going to use the... Because the thing is, while I'm not a big fan of assuming univocality for the Bible as a whole, for just the story of Noah, we can reasonably infer univocality for just within that story. And if we do that, which again I think is reasonable, then yeah, we do know what all flesh is. It's literally everything alive that has flesh. So I guess not plants. Roshna Evolutionized Keller for 199 says, don't some people have not have an internal monologue? Ah, but what about an external monologue where you literally talk to yourself out loud? But yes, there are some people who apparently do not have an internal monologue. That doesn't mean they don't talk to themselves, because they might actually out loud speak to themselves. But also, I mean, when I say everyone talks to themselves, I don't mean that in the absolute, literally no person exists who does not talk to them. Generally speaking, when people say things like always or never, they really mean the vast majority of the time, not literally every single instance. So that's the way I'm using everyone, is just to say that this is the common practice among humans. Not that it's literally every single individual human. So I'm sure there's some people who do not talk to themselves, and just like there are some people who do not have an internal monologue. So I will end that poll if we can get it to 80 votes. It's at 53. So if you haven't voted, get on it, because I'm noticing that there are 127 people in here, 97 of whom have hit like, which I appreciate. But not nearly 127 people have voted. Let's get that to 80 votes. Let's see what we can do.
There have been a few fossils found of dinosaurs or other animals found with teeth marks on their bones where somebody was chewing on them.
Mm-hmm.
I believe one was found with a tooth stuck in the bone.
That's actually happened a few times. It's actually very, very cool because it's a window into actual behavior of ancient animals, which we do not get a lot of.
And some have argued, see, that proves they were eating each other before the flood.
I mean, I guess that's an internal debate within creationism, but wouldn't that mean that they were eating each other during the flood, given the general interpretation from most creationists is that the fossils were formed during the flood? Which actually raises the question of, what were all these animals doing trying to eat each other while also drowning? That seems weird.
I was going to say, I thought they were drowning during the flood. Isn't that the whole point?
Yeah, it is. Or at least it's most of the point. All right, so we have a 200 Argentinian pesos super chat from Glenn Hovind, full relation, who has the AI Hovind profile picture, which is horrifying, who says, let's see if you get this obscure language. AIG ist Onotasca? Okay, so ist... So it's definitely a Western Indo-European language. I usually associate ist with like Germanic languages, but I'm not sure which one this would be. But it's supposed to be obscure, and the use of backgrounds probably excludes most of the ones that are relatively well known. So it's an obscure Germanic language. Region? No, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Is it actually Germanic, though? It could just be a coincidence. Yeah, I don't know. Old High German. It's pre-Yiddish, of course. Of course, it's pre-Yiddish. Okay, Old High German. Got it. Okay. Which, by the way, High versus Low German does not refer to, like, fancy versus, like, vulgar. It refers to, like, the elevation where the languages were originally spoken. Old High German was spoken in the uplands. Old Low German was spoken in the lowlands. Okay, Old High German. Yeah, there's no way I would recognize that. But at least I got to a Germanic. Off of one word, by the way, which, you know what? I'm pretty proud of that. I think that's a damn good job for getting to Old Germanic from just that one thing. And also recognizing that the use of macrons probably removes it from the list of currently widely known Germanic languages. So, I'm going to call that a win. Since I make up the rules, no one can contest this. I mean, you can. I'm just going to reject your contestation? Contest? I think it's just contest. English is stupid.
No. That proves they were biting each other before the flood. It doesn't prove they're eating each other, okay?
But can the gnaw marks do? We don't just have tooth marks, we have gnaw marks. We have areas where we can tell that a T-Rex was sitting there, chomping its front teeth into the tissue of a dinosaur, scraping its teeth so far into that dinosaur that it scraped along the bones, and then lifting off. That's not a bite. That's a feeding mark. We have more than just bite marks. We have actual scavenge marks from dinosaurs on other dinosaurs. Like,
why would Kent care if they're eating each other before the flood or biting each other before the flood?
I think he thinks that predation didn't start until after the flood or wasn't supposed to. I think he says that when God told Noah that he's allowed to eat meat, that wasn't just God allowing Noah to eat meat. It was him allowing animals broadly to eat.
Okay, so he's just being extra stupid.
Yeah. Savage Cobra, the Ediacar invertebrate, says, I thought High German was spoken after recreational drug use. Yeah, that's new High German. We're talking about old High German. So, you gotta keep the new versus old straight. I know it's very complicated.
Maybe they're just fighting for high ground. The flood.
What high ground? The entire Earth is covered in water, according to you. What high? I'm just gonna take a drink. The global flood, where all of the mountains were covered up to 15 cubits. They were fighting for high ground. Okay. Sure.
It might have taken 6 months to kill everybody. The flood, Noah's in the ark for a year, okay?
It's a little bit more, but sure.
Let's just assume it took 6 months for everybody to drown.
I mean, it normally doesn't take 6 months during a flood for everyone to drown.
I not understand how drowning works.
I don't know.
How long do you think you can hold your breath, Kent?
How long do you think you can swim?
6 months? Like, what is this?
I don't know. But I do know that Dr. Tapioca Weasel just gifted 5 more Dapper Dinosaur memberships. We're going to take some more drinks for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Flood water just keeps slowly coming up, coming up, coming up. Continents start getting smaller and smaller, and pretty soon people are trapped on small areas, and they're just simply fighting for high ground.
You previously said that you were accepting Walt Brown's, the broad aspects of Walt Brown's flood model of catastrophic plate tectonic. No, sorry. Hydroplate theory, right? This has the flood starting with hypersonic jets of water launching up through the crust of the Earth as the crust of the Earth collapses down at least a few miles. And this superheated water is coming up as superheated steam. Not like 100 degrees Celsius steam, like 400 degrees Celsius steam. And you're telling me that while enough energy is being released to boil the oceans and cause every crater that has ever been formed in the entire solar system, that you think dinosaurs were out there living on high ground and fighting each other for territory, despite the fact that we have actual feeding marks from dinosaurs on dinosaur bones? And I'm sorry, that's your model? That's the Hovind theory? Even on its own terms, Kent, that doesn't make a lick of sense. Like, ignore the physical impossibilities. Internal consistency shows you that can't be the explanation, Kent. Okay, we got a couple things to read here. Goop23, who's been a member for 26 months, says they were fighting for old High German grounds. Savage Cobra, the Ediacar invertebrate, for $5 says, wait, doesn't he believe that the Earth didn't have high ground until after the flood? Well, he certainly believes that the Earth was much lower relief than it is now. But, like, I don't think he believes it had, like, zero topology. He just thinks the mountains were lower. So I guess you could still have intermittent periods where there's some high ground that's not above the water until the water reaches the highest point. But, yeah, it certainly would take a lot less time to flood the whole world if the mountains were installed, which he does think is true. Glenn Hovind, full relation, for 200 Argentinian pesos, says, it's over, Toolcane. I have the high ground. Genesis 4.6.5. Yeah, but Tubal-Cain is a worker of iron, so did Noah have iron? Actually, it was just this year that I finally got around to watching the Russell Crowe Noah movie. It was neither as good as I hoped nor as bad as I feared. So, there you go. Savage Cobra, the Ediacar invertebrate, for $2 says, it's over, Allosaurus. I have the high ground. You know what? The best part of the prequels is the memes. Because as movies, they are not great. But as meme factories, top-notch.
People get in some awfully ferocious fights for some awfully dumb things now.
You know what? That's true, Kent. We'll take a drink for that. That is absolutely true.
So, I don't know that I can answer all the questions about that, but whether it was all flesh had corrupted his way, or does that mean just all humans, or does that mean all flesh?
I mean, you're the literalist, Kent. You tell me.
And the Lord said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And
Skeptics and Scoundrels for $2 says, I talk to myself, and myself talks back. Well, it's always nice to have a response, right? You know you're being listened to. I do appreciate it. And, your self talks back. Okay, let's see. We still only have 73 votes? Come on, guys. Give me 7 more votes. There's 130 of you. Out of that, some of you haven't voted yet. I can tell, because that's how math works. So 7 more of you. Just hit a button. Hit yes, no, or turtle.
behold, I will destroy them with the earth. So that flood not only destroyed man, it destroyed the earth. Now guys like Hugh Ross are saying the purpose of the flood was just to kill man. It's not what the Bible says. The Bible says God was going to have this flood to destroy them with the earth.
I mean, yeah, Hugh Ross is wrong that that's what the Bible says, but he's right that there was never a global flood. So, I don't know. It's basically, what do you want to do? You want to prioritize literalism about Genesis 1 through 11? Or do you want to prioritize actual physical reality? It's up to you. I can't force you to prioritize one versus the other. Oh, now we're at 77 votes. We only need 3 more votes. Come on, 3 of you. Don't be shy. It's anonymous. I can't even tell which of you voted. There's no downside. Just click on that, the vote thing, and tap yes, no, or turtle.
Also destroyed the earth. And the Lord said, make thee an ark of gopher wood. Now when you turn to 2 Peter, it tells us, knowing this first, there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lust, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of. And now there's 2 things they're ignorant of. Number 1, that by the word
hey, we got to 81 votes. We're going to end that poll.
of God, the heavens, and it's plural, heavens, were of old. See, when God made the earth, he just spoke it into existence. The heavens were of old, made by his word.
That's not anything that the Bible says in Genesis. So we'll accept that 2 Peter says that God made the heavens of whatever. But we're going to read through Genesis 1 in just a second. Do you ever talk to yourself? Yes, 86%, turtle 10%, and no 2%. That seems about like what I would expect. So yeah. So let's see. Vadim Marchenko says, did biblical scholars finally work out what gopher wood is? Not that I am aware of. As far as I know, that is one of those words that we don't actually have a great translation for. Ben, what's your favorite translation of the Bible?
I don't know.
All right, I'm going to go RSV.
Sure.
All right, so in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, although that is a mistranslation as we went over. The earth was without form and void, and the darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was moving over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, one day. Now, at any point so far, has God spoken the heavens into existence, according to the text? Ben?
No.
And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and separated the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and there was evening, and there was morning, a second day. In this one, God doesn't even speak the firmament into existence. He says there should be a firmament, and then he goes ahead and creates one by some process that's undefined. And God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. Now, here is using his voice to actually do a thing, but it's not create the heavens. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good, and God said, let the earth put forth vegetation, yielding plants and seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit, which is their seed, each according to its kind upon the earth, and it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed according to their kind, and trees bearing fruit in which their seed, each according to their kind. And God saw it was good, and there was evening, and there was morning the third day. Again, not the heavens. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to separate the day from the light, and let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and years. And let them be lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth, and it was so. Again, that's God putting something in the heavens, not him creating the heavens. So again, not in there. And God made the two lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also, and God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, a fourth day. So not happening there either. We're going to stop now because it just keeps going on like that. At no point does God speak the heavens into existence in Genesis 1. And Genesis 2 doesn't actually even talk about the creation of most of the universe, except for living things. And it also contradicts the order of when living things are created compared to Genesis 1. Roshna Evolutionized Keller for 1999 says, Kent thinks pre-flood the world had no differing topology. That it was akin to a water planet and interstellar, because Kent talked about harmonic waves of such grandeur that fluid dynamics requires flatness. Okay, but I think he thinks that the harmonics were during the flood, doesn't he? And that Earth just had lower relief topology. I'm almost positive that's what he's talking about when he says those things. But maybe, again, that's just me trying to, steelman Kent into a position that actually is at least internally coherent. Because that's one of the things. I'm always worried that whenever I'm trying to report what Kent believes, I'm actually reporting a much more reasonable version of what he believes, and that what he actually believes is far stupider than I could even imagine. So, you might be right. He might be that stupid, and I might just be being way too generous to him. But you know what, though? It is about time to start wrapping things up. Bent, do you have anything coming up that you want to tell people about?
Nope, I have nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
Well, I have some stuff that I want to talk about. So coming up on Thursday, we have a rebroadcast. So I went on Chesh's channel with Jackson Wheat, along with a creationist whose name honestly escapes me. He's not a big prominent guy. He was just some guy that Jackson and I ended up talking to on Twitter. So that will be starting on the 10th at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And it'll be a bit long. I think it's about a 2-hour video, so, bring snacks. And it will be me chatting with this guy, and Chesh is, hosting, and she, throws in her view every once in a while. It was a very interesting talk. However, it was also frustrating because there were a number of things that we tried to get a young Earth creationist to define because he wanted to use these ideas in his argument for creationism. But you can't do that unless you know what the ideas are. And he couldn't tell us what they were. So, yeah, that was rough. So that was I think that'll be a fun video. Please do show up for that, because rebroadcasts don't always do super well, and I would really appreciate it if I could get the views. So that is on a Thursday. Then on Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, there we go, which is 8 p.m. Eastern. On Top Hats Off, my other channel, we are going to be doing Star Trek Lexington Episode 4, Adrift. Again, that features a number of people you might recognize, including many of my viewers, like, well, a few of my viewers, like Zeralon, Crusher, and Czar, as well as we have Chesh from Chesh, Jordan from Reason to Doubt, Craig from FTFE, we've got me, and now I feel like I'm missing someone. I feel like I only named 6 names. Who am I missing? Oh, Zeralon. I forgot Zeralon. And Tirirana. Okay, sorry. Maybe I missed only one of those. Anyway, we've got all those people. They're great. They're doing Star Trek stuff. So that was what you saw the coming attraction for. So, oh my goodness. Okay, so hold on. Before I continue on with what else we've got, we also have received 5 Dr. Tapioca gift subscriptions and 20 gift subscriptions from Joshua Geese,
Nice.
which puts us most of the way to forcing me to wear a tutu, and I'm also going to increase this by 25 and finish this drink, so give me a second here. Oh, that's a lot. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. That is extremely generous. So that is on Friday. Then on Saturday, I'm going to be doing Dapper Reacts. Chesh will be back because a whole bunch of people are out that day. So I reached out to Chesh to see if she wanted to be on. And we're going to be doing a new video. We're not going to be continuing with Pete Greer. And so, yeah, that's what's going to be on Saturday. That's going to be at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, next Tuesday is Matt with Maddie. So, yeah, which will probably be the last time I really bring up the Steven Anderson thing, because I do want to talk on a Matt with Maddie about the fact that Matt Powell has come out against Steven Anderson and called for him to step down as the pastor, and pointed out how unacceptable all of this nonsense is. So I want to say thank you very much, everybody. You've been extremely generous. I really appreciate it. You guys are going to put all my hypothetical kids through college, and also get bench free pizza. So, Dr. Tapioca says, wait, did Dapper Dinosaur credit Tapioca to me, Tabloid, or one of those rounds of 5? I don't know what that means.
So the 5 gift subs were from Dr. Tabloid Weasel.
Oh, it was Dr. Tabloid Weasel. Yeah, I did say Dr. Tapioca Weasel. I'm sorry about that. It is Tabloid Weasel. My apologies there. All right, well, with that, we are going to be watching some Power Rangers Jungle Fury episodes, I believe. Let's see, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So go head over to the Discord channel if you are interested in doing that. And otherwise, I will hopefully see all of you on Thursday. So, yeah, be there. Or be somewhere else, but please be there.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Hovind, Phil Havara, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, North Texas Fossils, John Ackerman, Strawberry Vein, Dr. Tapioca Weasel, Elron Teller, Horseflesh, Ian Chen, Calvin Brostig Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babbity, Sphincter of Doom, and Ballas. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.